Hello and good evening. This is Robert Heldreth reporting for the Eyes of the Republic, our very first edition here. And so, what I wanted to talk to everybody about tonight, and our first report is going to be on campaign finance, and how that relates to what sort of things our politicians are doing. I'd like to concentrate on California first for all of our viewers out there in California. That's who this is aimed at. First, I'm going to cover the senators, Feinstein and Boxer. Then I'll move on to Brian Bilbray, who is my congressional representative here in Mira Mesa. If he's not yours, you can go ahead and tune off at that point. But it is very, very interesting. So this is very much connected, and why this is important to you is whenever you want to know if your politician is representing you, why wouldn't they be representing you? Well, this might be a reason why they might be representing somebody else's interest over your interests, which is obviously not very democratic. So there's some very interesting material here. I'd like to start off with Barbara Boxer, who raised $28 million for the 2012 campaign cycle so far. So just to rattle off a couple of those top contributors, Emily's list, interesting. University of California is way up there with $150,000. I don't know where the University of California got that much money to give to a politician, but let's see. Also, Stanford University, 44,000. There's quite a few. Ooh, here's a good one. News Corp, which is Rupert Murdoch and his empire, gave her $80,000. This is a very liberal senator, and yet News Corp is funding her. It's pretty interesting. Quite a bit of lawyers gave to her. Quite a few top lawyer firms, law firms. I guess you'll call them. Now, breaking down off of her, what sectors, single issue, which I'm assuming is going to be, I mean, you would think things like environmentalists, stuff like that, but ultimately they're lobbyists, right? They're putting money towards a single issue. Uh, Lawyers and lobbyists, that actual term, and then communications is huge. So communications means the news, people like AT&T, cable companies, all that good stuff. Of course, finance, the finance sector, and the healthcare industry. Those are her top sectors. Now, how does that translate into what she's been doing? Well, I am not going to get into legislation at this point yet. It is definitely something that I need to do more research on, and I'm going to bring that to you soon. But the Eyes on the Republic do want to point out that with her committee membership, that can tell you a lot about where your senator is spending a lot of their time. So your Senator Boxer is spending her time as a chairman on the Committee of Environment and Public Works. Now, she also has a heavy contribution from the League of Conservation Voters, so those conservationists. Not that it's a bad thing that she's sitting on the Committee of Environment and Public Works, but is that campaign contribution, and is that dependency sort of leaning her to put more effort towards that? Now, conservationists might not have a problem with it, other people might, but ultimately, we want her representing all of us, not just who gives her money. But some things that you might be considerably concerned about is the fact that she also sits on the subcommittee of communications and technology. And a lot of her finance comes from, hey, guess what? News Corp and Cisco and the communications industry. Also, she sits on the consumer protection, product safety, and insurance. So guess what? That means health insurance, one of her top industries that gave to her. Guess what? Healthcare industry. So again, you know, I just want to point out sort of these possible conflicts of interest. The astounding fact is that these people just don't even recognize it. Now, our next senator, Feinstein, also a Democrat, she is not quite as heavy of a hitter. She raised 7 million in the 2012 cycle. But wow, I mean, when we look at her contributors and the committee she sits on, you're going to be very interested to find out a little bit more about our good friend Feinstein. Her top contributors, three top contributors: PG&E, General Atomics, and Edison International. And let's see here, what committees does she sit on? She sits on the subcommittee of Energy and Water Development. She also sits on the subcommittee of Agricultural, Rural Development, Food and Drug Administration, and related agencies. Also, some of her top industries were agriculture business, also related to that transportation, construction, and some other, again, troubling ones is the fact that she is getting large donations from the defense industry, including Northrop Grumman, and she happens to sit on the subcommittee of defense. She also sits on the Caucus of International Narcotics Control, which is very much so related to military spending, things like that, and also on the Immigration, Refugees, and Border Control. Again, directly involved with the defense industry, who she gets a lot of her campaign finance from. So if you just look at all of those committees that she sits on, and then it makes complete sense whenever you look at the amount of money that she's getting from the people who are directly affected by the laws and the committees. Now, what's important to understand about committees, I guess I should have covered this earlier. Committees are where bills are born, so to speak. So if there's a bill that needs to be passed on something, and first Congress sends it to a committee, and they sit there and they sort of do research, and they hire researchers, and they debate and they talk about these specific bills because that's their area of expertise. And so they develop the bills before it goes out onto the floor and really starts to get debated and take shape that way. First, it's being shaped by the people in these committees. So these birthplaces of these bills that are getting pushed through, the people who are sitting in these committees are often directly tied to the industries which these laws are going to be affecting. Very, very important conflict of interest. I guess I'll go into Bilbray at this point in Congress. Now, as a congressman, he's not getting nearly as much money, $1.3 million in the 2012 cycle. So some of his top contributors, General Atomics, Edison, let's see, those are it for the energy department, but as for his top industries, healthcare, finance, insurance, real estate, energy, communications, electronics, and it's important to keep in mind that, for congressmen, it's a lot. They don't have as much power as senators do. So he is doing not as much as our senators were doing, but he does sit on the subcommittee of, guess what, energy and the environment, also on communications, technology, and the internet. So you'll see that most of these people were given money by the communications and you can see where it makes a lot of sense why they kind of vote the way they vote, as well as the energy industry. Again, let's look at a lot of the people who provide our energy for us, and a lot of people provide communications. Both of those industries, if you don't know already, are monopolized, and they are state given monopolies, meaning that it's okay. We've deemed it okay for Time Warner to have a monopoly or Edison to have a monopoly because there's such high investment that it's just not practical to have competition. So we give, our representatives give them a monopoly over these, over utilities, over communications, and they're supposed to be regulating them to make sure they're not taking advantage of us. But at the same time, wait, let me stress something else. They are also watching out for our safety, electricity, nuclear energy. These are all very important things to our economy, to our health, to our safety. And the same people who are supposed to be regulating them and looking out for us are also getting large contributions from these very industries. Now, are they getting large contributions from these industries because they sit on the committees? Are they sitting on the committees because they're getting large contributions? Is there no or is there no causation there whatsoever? I mean, I can't tell you, but I do know that in every single situation, you can figure out exactly what the connection is between a committee and a representative. So I guess I'll wrap it up for tonight on that issue. Obviously, very thought-provoking things. And what I ask you, the viewer, to do is to let me know what questions you have as far as, okay, what does this mean, Rob? How does this relate to something else? What was that term you were using? Let me know. That way I can bring this information back to you in a way that you can really understand and digest. So I've done a lot of research. I want to make it as easily digestible for you. That way you know what's going on. If there's specific issues you want me to cover, anything like that, if you want to get involved, do some of your own research, but you don't know where to start, definitely let me know. And last but not least, I do want to give a big giant shout out and thanks to votesmart.org, which is a great website, who'smyrepresentative.com, where you can find out exactly who your representative just by typing in your zip code. And from there, they have the list of other websites to find out information. So, Who's My Representative? VoteSmart is great. GovTrack.us is amazing, and OpenSecrets.org. Those four websites are all doing really great things as far as transparency and aggregating this information. It's still really difficult to get through, which is why I'm bringing it to you. But, we have to give credit where credit is due. Thank you to them, and thank you for watching.